Hello and welcome to another episode of the Talking NorCal podcast, the official podcast of Active NorCal. I am your host, Zach O'Brien. With me here, as always, it's Yosemite Bob. How you doing, Bob?
Yosemite, Bob.
Yosemite,
Yeah,
Bob.
you got to pronounce it right. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. We've taken some time off here, which has been great. We drove over to Utah and we had some nice time over in the summer of Park City out there. It is beautiful out there. In fact, I think of it as sort of like the sister destination of Northern California. Like there's a lot of similarities there, a lot of differences, obviously, with California and Utah, but a lot of similarities there. We had a blast. It was beautiful. How you been?
Been good. Been hunkering down, doing some video editing. I see you got a new water bottle there. Did you get that in Utah?
Oh, did you notice? No, I actually didn't. So I'm glad you asked, actually. So you remember when we went on the hike to Feather Falls in Butte County, 9
Absolutely.
miles there and back, we ran out of water.
Yep.
We didn't think it was going to be as long as it was. We ended up taking the long route.
I drank from the spring, though.
So
I guess you did, too.
No. Oh, yeah, I ended up doing So we ran out of water, and Bob says, let's just drink out of the stream. It's fine. And I'm like, I'm terrified of drinking out of the stream. You have to look upriver to make sure there's no dead animals, whatever. So I got contacted by Nero Flask here, and they sent me this cool water bottle, which, here, let me pull it out here. It has its own filter. So,
Oh, yeah.
see this here?
Do you have to? Can you change it?
Yeah,
filter?
so you can change out the filter. They sell like cheap filters on their website. So you fill this up with spring water, and then you have a filter, bam, in case you run out of water anytime.
Does it? I know you have to like pull off of it like it's a straw. Is it really hard to suck? Like
No,
going through a
it's
thing?
super easy.
Oh yeah.
Super easy. It has a compass in here. Yeah, it has a compass.
Let me see it.
It's super cheap. I think it runs for like $20 on their website. And in fact, so they sent this to us for free.
Compass.
Yeah, they sent
Random.
this to us for free, and they also gave a promo code for our listeners. So you can go to neroflask.com, neroflask.com. Use the promo code NorCal, 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 and you get 10% off. It's cheap as heck already. Inexpensive, I mean. It's inexpensive already, so you'll get 10% off with that code. Pretty cool. So they reached out to us, and I thought it was a super cool product, so I thought I'd throw it up on the website here. But I'm stoked. Now we can just bring this along. We don't have to worry. As long as we know there's water on the hike.
Well, I mean, you got one. Where's mine? I guess I'll go online and use a promo code.
I'll have them send another one. I should have gotten one for you. I'm sorry. I was so excited they were sending one to me. Yes. So that's that. Check it out, guys. Seriously, this is a really cool product. Promo code NorCal, neroflask.com. Really cool. So what do we have on the podcast today? We have a great interview with Jason Hardrath. He is an elementary teacher. He is a guide for Shasta Mountain Guides. And he chases what are known as fastest known times around Mount Shasta. Basically, there are these insane fitness challenges, and these people compete to try to get the fastest of them. And in a sense, they're equivalent to a world record.
We've talked about them before, going up Mount Shasta
We have.
recently.
Yeah, there's a ton, and we'll actually talk about another one. A guy just did one on the Tahoe Rim Trail, fastest known time. They're sort of the outdoor equivalent of like a Guinness World Record, right? So we have him on the podcast. We had a great interview with him. And we have a lot of news to get to first. So should we just start this off? Let's jump in with this episode with the Tahoe's Hella NorCal.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and Darren knows how to dudes who kick it down in Santa Cruz. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the East Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal.
So it was a fantastic week in America. I mean, it was another tough week in America. Let me get that straight. But it was great because this week, President Donald Trump signed the Great American Outdoors Act. And it's something that I've been reading about for quite some time and very excited about it. This will bring more money to our public lands, all of our public lands, whether it's national park, and also it will help us create more public lands, more parks, everything. So it was really exciting. Yesterday, they had the signing of the bill. The bill, I believe, was passed about a month ago, but they actually signed it. The Great American Outdoors Act. It's basically the biggest piece of legislation for the outdoors that we've seen, I don't know, since Teddy Roosevelt, maybe.
It's great news.
Great news. So here's what happens. Here's what it does. It guarantees maximum annual funding for a federal program to acquire and preserve land for public use. So for California, I mean, this is a federal bill, but California, we don't create state parks anymore, even though a lot of people want it. We just don't do it. This allocates money for the federal government to create more national parks and more national recreation areas. Awesome.
Totally.
Fantastic. It allocates $900 million a year to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So almost $1 billion in conservation every year. And the bill includes $9.5 billion over 5 years to begin clearing up a maintenance backlog at national parks. So I don't know what that means necessarily for Northern California parks. I mean, there's a lot of national recreation areas. You have, Whiskey Town, and you have like Golden Gate. That's a national recreation area. And then you obviously have the big dogs. You have Redwood National Park. You have Lassen National Park. You have Yosemite National Park. So I don't know exactly what that means. What it basically means is they're going to have more money. They're going to have more money to do maintenance stuff, which I'm sure each park in itself has its own maintenance issues and needs to deal with its trails and its facilities and its infrastructure in a different way. So it's not entirely clear what that means locally, but it's good.
It can't be bad. I mean, thinking about them clearing out a backlog of things that these areas want to do, I mean, that's kind of exciting. I start to think about, you go...
Do backlogs excite you?
Well, I mean, you talk to people that work in the national parks, and they're like, we really wish we could put more money here, or we have this on our, to-do list, but there's a lot of things that go in front of it. And all of those things improve the experience of being in those outdoor recreation areas, whether it's cleaning something up, whether it's making another area more accessible to the local community. It's great. And, there's probably old footbridges that they're going to redo.
Totally.
And, all of those things there's nothing bad about this,
Yeah, it's like that, Bump as Hell in Lassen. They just did that refurb of the trail.
And it's gorgeous now.
Beautiful now. And so I don't know exactly what it means. I mean, it basically just gives a ton of money to these parks and to begin new parks and to protect land through the federal government. So that's great. Super exciting. We're stoked on that. Like it was big news. It was big news.
But there was also a little element of comedy to the story as well.
Well, comedy and conflict. I mean, it turned us into that. We had some issues yesterday in our comment section, which is not new to us, but basically, so Donald Trump gave a speech after he signed the fantastic bill, and he mentioned one park in what we consider Northern California, and that's let's just play the clip. You have the clip on you?
I got the clip.
Let's play the clip so people can hear exactly what he said and why we thought it was news and why we reposted it. Go ahead.
Here's President Donald Trump.
We want every American child to have access to pristine outdoor spaces. When young Americans experience the breathtaking beauty of the Grand Canyon, when their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful bursts into the sky, when they gaze upon Yosemite's towering sequoias, their love of country grows stronger, and they know that every American has truly a duty to preserve this wondrous inheritance.
So he's reading these prepared remarks, right? Announcing the bill, and basically he's highlighting sort of the great parks of America, right? And it turns out he doesn't know how to pronounce Yosemite.
Yeah, and in a previous podcast, I've mentioned how much
yes.
I loved Yosemite. And, when I started going there in my 20s, me and my friend Alex just started to call it Yosemite. So you took that soundbite, put it right by this comment by Donald Trump, and I thought it was hilarious.
And you look if you talk to people who work at Yosemite or work in the area of Yosemite, a lot of people pronounce it that Yosemite, and it's a common mistake for people that don't know the park. That's fine. So, so we posted it on our website, and the reason we did that is because anytime the most famous person on the planet mentions a park that we write about every single day, it's news for us. It just is. And, we didn't take it too seriously. In the article, we spend the first 2 paragraphs hailing how great the bill is and how awesome it is. And then we put the clip in and just say, but, our president doesn't know how to pronounce Yosemite.
He's probably pronounced it right before, but he was reading it, and it was probably just was pronounced wrong. Who knows?
I don't care that he doesn't
really matter.
He's from New York. He's never been to Yosemite. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't diminish the fantastic bill. So we posted it, and our comment section was the most vitriolic thing I've ever seen. And we've posted about politics. It is my belief that if there are political matters that have to do with the outdoors of Northern California, we're covering it. Sure. Period. I mean, you look at all the parks, you look at the national parks and everything, they were all formed under politics at some point in time. So it's important to get funding for them. It's important both at a state and federal level to cover these things. And quite frankly, I thought it was just funny.
I did too.
I don't care that he doesn't know. It doesn't change my opinion of him at all, and it doesn't mean that I hate him, because I think it's funny that he can't pronounce the park that we literally write about every single day.
It probably actually brought more visibility to the story, him mispronouncing Yosemite.
Oh, well, okay. So this is how it happened. So we were doing research on exactly how this bill will impact Northern California parks. And as soon as you look it up, it's the first clip. It went super viral. And it would have been irresponsible of us to not mention it. It was I'm listening to his speech, trying to waiting for him to possibly mention Northern California. That's big news to me. That's what we do for a living. And he does, but he botches it. And it's fair. I don't care that he did. It doesn't. I would have written that article if it were Paul McCartney, if it were the Dalai Lama, if it were Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton. I don't care. Anybody. It doesn't. There's no political bias to it. He just mispronounced the word. Who cares? But it's funny, and it is news. I'm sorry, it is. So it was the nastiest comment section I've ever seen, and a lot of people said they were going to unfollow us. The numbers show otherwise, that they didn't. One guy called us active SnorCal. One of us said we're funded by the liberals, which, by the way, I don't know who George Soros is, but if he wants to give us money, fine. We're not going to change what we do. We don't change anyone's political mind. I'll tell you that much. So, and here's where it really gets me. Can we all just calm the F down? Why and no one reads articles anymore, right? It's about the headline, and they read the headline and they think we're making fun of him. We're not. It's news. And the comment section was just people blasting each other and blasting us and talking, either for or against Donald Trump. We are not political. We're not. That is not a political story. That is the most famous human on the planet mispronouncing a park that we talk about every single day.
It's a voting year, so people are hostile. Everyone's at home, and I get that, and it's fine. We didn't mean for it to be a political story. In fact, again, you put the video side by side of me pronouncing the same thing, and so it's lighthearted. We had we thought it was funny. I still think it's funny, and so if you took it personally, maybe you just need to lighten up in life.
I am just and we've talked about plenty of politics in the past, as far as the Shasta Dam raising. There's a lot of politics involved in that. We're not going to shy away from that stuff. We're not going to, we've put our opinion in some places here and there. It has nothing to do with being a liberal or a conservative or a Democrat or Republican. It has to do with what we personally believe is best for the outdoors in Northern California. It's just, and I don't know if this is going to impact me not, covering this stuff in the future. It could, because I don't want that sort of negativity surrounding us, and certainly people are going to think we're libtards or whatever they say. You have no idea what our beliefs are, and in fact, like most human beings, our beliefs are intricate, and they're not black and white like everybody in the comment section of Facebook wants to believe.
And Zach and I have different opinions about a lot of things. And
totally.
So it's not like we have an agenda out here politically. We just report the things that make sense to report in Northern California. And when sometimes we choose a political opinion on a topic like raising of the dam, it's not like, hey, go vote for this person or this person. We just think that this is better for the recreational outdoors. If we were talking about, potentially the Great American Outdoors Act being an issue before it was approved, that's politics, but that is part of what we do. So if you're going to take it personally when we mention a political member and we put a video of me side by side of that person and it's it's humorous, just calm the F down.
That's all I have to say about that. Thank you to President Trump for signing the Great American Outdoors Act.
And all other politicians that backed the bill. How about that?
Well, there were plenty. It was bipartisan. There's no political agenda anywhere here. It was just funny that, and by the way, how many times have we mispronounced stuff? All the time.
Me specifically.
We're not the most famous people on the planet, so no one talks about it. When
I'm up there.
When you're the most famous person on the planet, I'm sorry. Anyway, I just wish people would look at things for what they are and not think that we have an agenda based on the fact that we're reporting something. And I would say that article, even though we mentioned something, embarrassing, quote unquote, that he did, that article was praising him for bringing this bill in and giving all this money to the outdoors that we love so much. Rant over. I'm sorry. I get worked up about this stuff, but it's guys, get off Facebook, get out of the comments section, go outdoors, go vote, go do something other than you're not changing the world. Anyway, so that's it. That's our Yosemite story. Yosemite. And by the way, he's probably not going to mispronounce it again because it went crazy viral all over the
Rant over.
Rant over. Okay. So that does it for my little opening rant. You want to get in the news of the week?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. First NorCal note of the week. Actually, that sounds pretty good. I haven't said that in a while. It felt good to say that. First NorCal note of the week. 13-year-old swims across Lake Tahoe. Pretty sweet.
It's called the Godfather Swim. It's a 12-mile swim from Cave Rock to the Godfather Mansion and the west side of the lake in Homewood. 13 years old, 12 miles. Pretty cool.
I mean, when I was a kid, I used to swim across one portion of Whiskeytown Lake, and I thought that was really baller. But no, this 13-year-old is a badass.
Yeah, he's the youngest person to accomplish this swim. And it's, the kid's he's a fish. He swims everywhere. I think I read that he swam from San Francisco to Alcatraz too. I mean, he's that's crazy.
And, according to this article, quote, dehydrates if left out of water too long is written on his Facebook page.
Yeah. No, it's, so that swim, it's, Lake Tahoe's this big sort of oval shape, and that swim, like if you were to go from Kings Beach to South Lake, that's got to be like 20 miles. So it's the thinner part of Lake Tahoe that he swims against. He swims he goes from Nevada all the way across to the Godfather house in California, I believe. But huge deal. I mean, the kid's 13 years old, and I guess, he refused to swim backstroke or butterfly like the entire time. And so, yeah, I think he's got like records, and he's been to the Junior Olympics, a Southern California kid. But yeah, a big deal swimming across Lake Tahoe. Pretty cool.
James Savage.
What a savage.
What a cool kid. All right,
Yeah.
next story. Warren Buffett enters the conversation to remove the Klamath River dams.
So who knew that we've been talking about the Klamath River dams for years now and their potential removal? Turns out Warren Buffett owns them. Who
Shocker.
knew? No, it's weird. It's weird. So it's basically there's a lot going on here, but basically the dam was given over to the Klamath River Renewal Corporation, which was set up entirely to remove these dams, and it was given over from Pacific Corp to this KRRC, but as part of the deal, Pacific Corp still has to run them because basically KRRC doesn't have the capability of running these 4 giant dams. So Pacific Corp is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, which is owned by Warren Buffett. And recently, Governor Newsom sent a letter to Buffett saying, hey, please, just support this. Tell your people at Pacific Corp to get rid of these dams. So it's a weird turn in this long journey of which will be the largest dam removal project in the history of the world and will hopefully single-handedly return salmon populations on the Klamath River back to normal. But it's just I mean, we're inching on closer and closer to removing these dams, and at every turn there's some sort of bureaucratic speed bump that we've had to slow down for. And Warren Buffett's just the most recent. He's a giant speed bump, I guess.
Well, hopefully he doesn't continue to become a speed bump. Maybe he wants to, progress this. Who knows?
I don't think Warren Buffett gives a damn about the Klamath River
dams. But yeah, we at Active NorCal have been talking about this for years, but I think it was either the first or second episode of Talking NorCal. We've been talking about this issue continuously since the beginning.
It was, I
think it was episode 2.
So we did a couple practice episodes. It might have been one of the practice episodes, but yeah, we talked for 20 minutes about undamming and we've written it. We have probably 15 articles on the website about these dams. It's huge. And, for anyone that doesn't know, these are hydroelectric dams. There's 4 of them, and they were built on the Klamath River for their only purpose was conducting electricity. That is a outdated way to conduct electricity. There's so many, better ways to get electricity. And not only that, but they completely destroyed the salmon population. So all like Native American groups, conservation groups, all these people have been trying to get rid of these dams forever because, they can barely keep my home lit. And they're killing all the salmon runs that not only are awesome, and we love, a good salmon run, but the Native Americans still use salmon as part of their culture, and they eat them and catch them and everything. So I guess this all now comes to Warren Buffett, who is one of the most famous billionaires on the planet. So yeah, interesting little, zigzag in this story, but I think we're inching closer towards them eventually coming down.
We definitely do love a good salmon run.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Salmon are awesome. Yeah.
All right, next story, kind of an update of a story we've talked continuously about again. Trail cam video shows 8 healthy Lassen Pack pups in Northern California wilderness.
A first look at the controversial and cuddly wolves of Northern California, the only known wolf pack in California, although that's, a lot of people say that they see wolves around, but it's the only one that the CDFW knows about and is tracking, and they live in Lassen County, hence that's why they call them the Lassen Pack. Just interesting to see. There's 2 gray wolves and 6, I don't know what they call them, darker colored wolves. And they're cute as heck. And it is proof. I mean, that's a lot of wolves. The wolf pack now sits at 14. So it is a large wolf pack. It went from basically 2 lone wolves that had 1 litter. And I believe this is the 4th consecutive year the last pack has had a new litter. So basically the known population of wolves doubled recently with these 8 monumental pups.
I think it's cool. We've talked about before that there are disadvantages of having wolves in the area, particularly when it comes to farmers and their livestock. But I think this is great. Wolves, this is kind of their natural habitat. They kind of moved out of California up to more Oregon, Washington, but this is where they are naturally supposed to live. I'm happy to see it. So great story.
Yeah, and these are the descendants of the famed OR7, the wolf that famously traveled from Oregon into Northern California in 2011, becoming the first known wolf in the state of California in 100 years. So from that monumental crossing, which I'm sure that wolf had no idea what it was doing, it was just looking for food and a good place to live, has grown this pack. And what it grows from here is yet to be determined, obviously, but the population's growing every single year now. So this is a huge source of controversy for a lot of people who are either for or against having wolves in the area. But I like wolves. I like them. I understand the people who dislike them because they have a reason to, because they go after cattle. But wolves are a cool animal, if you ask me.
Totally. Okay, let's go to the next story. We have NorCal Ultrarunner shatters Tahoe Rim trail record.
This is sort of on subject with our conversation with Jason coming up here soon, who lives his life to beat these fastest known times, FKTs. And this guy, Adam Kimball, he just shattered the Tahoe Rim Trail FKT, the record. So the trail, it goes all the way around Lake Tahoe. It goes way up into the Desolation Wilderness, and it goes like above Highway 89. It's a crazy trail that it takes all the way around. It's 171 miles, and he completed it in how long? 37 hours, 12 minutes, and 15 seconds, which was about an hour and a half faster than the previous record.
It's crazy. When talking to Jason, we're talking to him about a couple of his long journeys like this. And he's like, yeah, I had one 45-minute nap. And there was a couple times where my legs were getting wobbly. So I just, collapse on the trail and just take a 15-minute nap. That's crazy to me. I don't think I could ever do anything like that.
Yeah. So Kimball, he tried this exact same record, the Tahoe Rim Trail, in October 2019, but he got really tired at night and he had to take a nap, and he ended up doing it in 45 hours, like 45 and a half hours. This time he beat that by 8 hours, over 8 hours. And he said, well, for one, he had people running with him in different sections throughout, which kept him motivated. But since he was able to stay on such a great pace, he was so motivated, he didn't take a nap at all. Over 37 hours, he just completed the whole thing, probably tired as heck at the end. And it's crazy because you can see when he crosses the finish line at the end, he posted a video on his Instagram. He looks energetic.
He's pumped.
37 hours, 170 miles of, this isn't just like running on the street. This is cement trail. This is dirt trail. This is steep switchbacks. This is like a full on huge outdoor. There's a ton of elevation gain. So this was pretty darn cool.
If you look at the article on activenorcal.com, like the circle that goes around the lake is just, it's way bigger than you think it should be.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, why would you do that? I mean, there's literally a road that goes almost all the way around the lake and much shorter distance. But again, I'm not one of those people that would ever attempt anything like this. So this guy's a badass.
So the shoreline of Lake Tahoe is 70 miles. The Tahoe Rim Trail is 170.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it does seem, but they're not, when they created the trail, they're not creating it for a person to do in one sitting, that's why it's so long. And I'm sure they created this, especially on the south side of the lake, they extended it so far south is because there's incredible views up there. But yeah, he said, he's obviously resting now, but he's considering doing a couple things. One, the guy has run across America before. He ran from Santa Monica to Georgia, and he's considering doing that again. But he's thinking about trying to beat the Pacific Crest Trail record next year.
Good for him.
Which
I hope he does it.
I forget. I think that's like 150 days or something. I forget. It was a couple years ago. The guy broke the PCT record in like 150 days. Did I say years or days? 150 days. So that's an insane time. You're basically running for 3 months or something. I don't know, but
challenge Adam Kimball. If you do this and you beat that record, we will absolutely have you on this podcast.
Oh, what a great prize for him.
I'll give you a bottle of wine.
All
too.
those
How about
months
it?
of work.
Yeah.
But no, awesome accomplishment. Really cool guy, and totally on topic for everything we're talking about today with Jason.
Okay, next story. This is a pretty quick one. Glow-in-the-dark waves light up Santa Cruz Beach.
Yeah, so I've seen this happening in Southern California, but it's never happened this far north that I've ever seen. And it's this natural phenomenon. It's bioluminescent phytoplankton. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
I wrote it down, but I bioluminescent phytoplankton, and basically, they're plankton, and when the ocean moves a certain way, they light up. And it's this certain bloom, and when there's an influx and there's all these different things, and they light up, and it obviously doesn't happen that often. But it creates this natural phenomenon of waves just glowing in the dark. Super cool.
When I lived in San Diego, this happened quite often, and it attracts a lot of people to the beach because while the waves do create the bioluminescent glowing, you can walk in the water and your footsteps will do the same thing. And so a lot of people like to get in and do that. I never actually went and saw it in person, but this is definitely a familiar story to me.
Like you can see it, like it's super bright under your feet, is what you're
I wouldn't
saying?
call it super bright, but yeah, it's definitely visible.
It's like
sure.
Avatar or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like they show it in one of those, not Avatar, it's one of those cartoons, I think, those like Pixar movies where they're walking in the water and it's kind of glowing around it. I don't know which one it is, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of science to this, which is a little confusing. I'm no scientist by any means, but I wonder if this bioluminescent phytoplankton come further north, or if it's more of a phenomenon that you'll see like starting in Santa Cruz and going south.
As you mentioned, I've never heard of it coming up this high, but I don't necessarily pay that close of attention to it. So it very well could happen very regularly, but I just have never, when I saw it, I thought they were speaking of somewhere in Southern California. And then when I saw it was Santa Cruz, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So
I also wonder if they can forecast if it will happen, or it's just word of mouth. Someone sees it and then
I feel like they have some kind of an idea when it's coming.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see in real life, but it certainly was. It got kind of viral this weekend when it's just the ocean's glowing. I mean, I always say this. Imagine being like a Native American, like way back in the day, and being like, "What the hell is happening right now?" It's a cool world we live in.
All right, last story of the day. This one definitely made me laugh. Bear hilariously wanders around a Tahoe golf course during PGA Tour tournament.
Bears plural, Bears, Bears plural. So it's the Barracuda Championship. It used to be called the Reno Tahoe Championship. It's an official PGA Tour event. There's professional golfers here. And for the first time, they did it in Truckee. There's no fans, right? We're in COVID. There's no fans. It's at the old Greenwood Golf Course in Truckee. And what is Truckee known for? What is all of Tahoe known for? Bears. So there's all these videos of bears just like looking, like just wandering around, looking at people like, what the hell are you doing at my home? You know, this is my home. And they had videos of these guys are trying to putt and this bear's just walking right past them. It's like, how am I supposed to putt? And then there's a bunch of videos of a bear in a tree and they're saying, oh, it's the best seat in the house. It's funny to me because this went to like national news in golf circles, especially. And these people, they think it's just this rare thing. No, this is something you're going to see every time you're golfing at a Tahoe golf course.
These bears are clearly very familiar with this golf course.
They're very familiar. They're totally used to humans. I mean, any Tahoe bear nowadays is totally at ease around humans because they don't see it as a threat. And in fact, they see humans as a source of food.
They're going to golf courses. They're opening car doors like it's no one's business. Yeah, they own that place.
So you see all these videos in like Florida of people having to run from like crocodiles. What would you rather run from a crocodile or a bear on the golf course?
That's an excellent question. I would rather run from an alligator, but I would rather see a bear because I think I've seen alligators. I've never actually seen a bear in the wild, and so I'd prefer to see one, but I'm more comfortable running from a gator, I guess is the best way of answering.
Yes, that is correct. You can actually run from a gator. If a bear's chasing you, a bear will catch you.
Right.
I'm more comfortable around bears. Just because in this area specifically, they're just very, there's a lot of them. I don't know anything about alligators. So if I saw an alligator, I'd be much more freaked out than if I saw a bear. That being said, I'd rather be chased by an alligator because an alligator's not catching me. A bear is catching me. So
you like that I didn't take the opportunity to mention punching an animal in the face?
Well, you just did. You just ruined it.
Well, I had to mention
Where's
it.
PETA? Get PETA on the line.
Pete, I really do love animals, I promise. And that's the NorCal News of the Week.
Okay, that is the NorCal News of the Week. There's actually a bunch more news. We're going to try to do another podcast again this week, so we sort of broke it up a little bit, but this was some fun stuff. But we want to get into this meaty conversation we had with Jason Hardrath, who is an inspiration, a huge inspiration. He was a lot of fun to talk to. So let's go over to our interview with Jason. We'd now like to welcome onto the podcast Jason Hardrath. He is a teacher. He's a guide for the Shasta Mountain Guides, and he is a chaser of what are known as fastest known times, not only in Northern California, but all around the Western United States. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm super excited to have a chance to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So my first question, we actually, you're a teacher, you're an elementary school teacher in Klamath Falls, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So we recently had our friend Marcus DeVoisen on. He is a rock climbing guide, and he's also a high school teacher. So I have to ask, what is it with teachers being like badass outdoor enthusiasts? Is it because you have summers off?
I mean, that was part of the reason. I teach health and PE, so it's kind of like I teach what I love and I live what I teach kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, part of why I chose teaching as a profession is, for one, I knew I couldn't sit still. I'm that ADHD kid that just struggled to get through school. My mom had to show up to school more days than she didn't to help me finish the day, without driving my teachers insane. And so I totally understand those students, but I'm still that as an adult too. I know I can't sit still for crazy amounts of time. And so I kind of chose a profession where it's like, all right, this profession is going to allow me to chase my own pursuits. And I feel like because of the alignment of me loving physical activity myself, it makes me that much better of a teacher because I go chase my own goals in these off times.
Awesome. Well, so you're talking about chasing goals, and I can only imagine, I don't know if you write down your goals, but looking at your list of accomplishments is staggering to say the least. So let's start out. For anyone who doesn't know, what exactly is a fastest known time?
So fastest known times, a fastest known time was a term coined by Buzz Burrell and Peter Bachwin, who founded the fastest known time website as a way of sort of providing a forum. Because, I mean, this has gone on for human history for eons, where in certain areas, speed cultures develop around certain mountains or around like fell running in Europe. And it used to be that it was kind of like a local level thing where like all the locals kind of knew what the time was and who did it, kind of who the legend was. And so they kind of made it mainstream where it's like, okay, now there's this central hub that's hosting this. And so it still has that little bit of an informal feel in that it's not like Guinness Book of World Records where you have to pre-book and have them come out and certify your whole thing. It's like, okay, you need to announce what you're doing so people are aware ahead of time. So if they want to come show up and watch, they can. But then you're recording your data with a GPS watch with like live tracking with, say, like a spot tracker or a Garmin InReach that updates live locations. You're taking time and geo-stamped photos, which is super easy nowadays because cell phones just automatically do that anyways. And then you're submitting all of that as verification. And they do look it over and make sure, like, especially if it's a well-contested or historic FKT, they definitely look over your data and make sure, like, okay, this all lines up. It's actually you were actually there. And yeah, then it gets published to the site so others can see what the fastest times are on these epic routes. And they are kind of unique in that you're able to do FKTs in places that people could never host a race, right? Like a race director could never get the insurance or get the permits to host races in some of these wilderness spaces or on some of the terrain that you can throw into the middle of an FKT, be it free soloing or glaciated terrain. There's just no way. So it kind of opens up this whole world of creativity for expressing this kind of light and fast mentality.
Yeah, I've certainly been hearing a lot about it over the last couple of years, and it was certainly a new phenomenon, and everyone was referring to it as an FKT, which was confusing at first because I didn't know what it was, but now I know it's the fastest known time. And there was just a guy who got the FKT around the Tahoe Rim Trail, and that was a big deal, I know, in Tahoe. So
Adam's awesome. I love Adam. Yeah.
That's insane what he did. It was really cool. But so based on my research on the fastest known time website, it looks like you have 46 FKTs in 2020 alone. Is that right?
It's right around that. Yeah.
You haven't counted, but I've counted. Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone out on one or two trips around the block. Yeah.
So what's that like? Do you just have a long list of ideas that you're trying to sort of cross off throughout the year?
Yeah. So basically I have a, little black notebook, famed little black notebooks, right? That has about 148 different routes that I've done some amount of research on. Like, okay, is this terrain I'm capable of covering? Do the numbers, do the metrics work out that I should be capable of producing like this kind of time on this type of terrain? And so, yeah, I kind of have this notebook of ideas of things I know I'd be interested in, routes I'm drawn to. And then I just kind of look at the weather, look at conditions, and choose something that lines up. Kind of a little bit of a leaf on the wind in that way, which I like it more that way anyways. I'm not much of a structure person. Structure makes me sort of shrivel up inside. I like it when it's spontaneous.
Me too. So I've seen, so you did some stuff I mean, you did some stuff all over the Western United States just in 2020 alone. You did like some Trinity Alps Wilderness stuff, but the most impressive that I saw in Northern California specifically was your Mount Shasta FKTs. So you did what you called the Infinity Loop, which did you make that name up?
That name was made by Chad Kellogg. He was the original person that thought it up on Mount Rainier to start. He passed away before he ever had a chance to attempt it in a sad accident down in Patagonia. And so it was kind of his friends founded it and completed it on Mount Rainier, kind of putting his name on it as the one who thought it up, kind of a little bit of in honor to him because he loved speed climbing. He loved big, gnarly routes. And the Rainier Infinity Loop is big and gnarly, 136 miles, 44,000 feet of elevation gain.
Wow.
And that was my first experience. I went and broke the record on that one, solo and self-supported. And like it was just an insane experience. And I kind of fell in love with the aesthetic of experiencing a big mountain, both from the bottom and from the top, and seeing it from every side, all under your own power. And there's just something magical through all the difficulty. There's just something beautiful about the aesthetics of the effort. And I was like, I want to do more of these. And there had already been someone actually at the same time as I did the Rainier Infinity Loop. I think he was 18 when he did it. A teenager, Landon Lim, established the Infinity Loop on Hood. And then someone had already done an Infinity Loop on Adams, but no one had done one on Shasta yet. And all three of those sort of became primary goals for me. It's like I want to have this experience with these mountains and inspire others to come give this a go who like this type of thing.
So how would you explain an Infinity Loop? Because I've seen the routes on paper, on picture. Do you? And for anyone that doesn't know, you're summiting for Mount Shasta. You're summiting Mount Shasta, and then you're running the entire way around it. So what's the process? Do you summit it first and then go all the way around? What is an Infinity Loop? How do you conquer an Infinity Loop?
All right. So an Infinity Loop is distinct from a summit circumnavigate. A summit circumnavigate, you go up one route and back down the same route, and then you just go around the whole mountain. It's kind of easy in the name. The Infinity Loop, if you imagine what an Infinity Loop looks like, if you put the top of the mountain right in the center of that loop, like a figure eight, right? You then draw that Infinity Loop by climbing up and over the mountain. So up a route on roughly on one side of the mountain, and then down a route that's roughly on the other side to create a clean aesthetic line across. Then you circumnavigate half, climb up and over the mountain again, and then circumnavigate the other half.
And how long did that take you to do on Mount Shasta?
On Mount Shasta, I believe I was out there for, I want to say it was 34 hours, if I remember right. Just under.
That's insane. Did you sleep at all?
I think I took about a 45 minute nap. And a couple short dirt naps as well, where it was just like I was still out on the trail and I was starting to get sleepy and wobble on my feet. And it's like, all right, power nap. Just threw on my puffy and curled up in a ball and kind of passed out till I got cold and stood up and went again.
That is amazing. So you also did and I believe you created this, the Mount Shasta picnic.
Yeah, that's modeled after another sort of established concept, for lack of a better term. And David Gonzalez, he first did what he referred to as picnics with the Grand Teton in Wyoming, where you bike out of Jackson, then you swim across Jenny Lake, and then you summit the Grand Teton, and then you reverse it all. So back down the mountain, back across the lake, bike back to town. So that's kind of the aesthetic, and kind of the hope of his effort is to like create these human-powered experiences where you're pushing yourself on the bike, you're swimming yourself through the lake, you're climbing on foot, and so I think that's the part that to him is really important. And so I tried to bring as much of that ethic to creating it on Mount Shasta, even though Mount Shasta is a little different because the way the the features line up, the lake and the bike ride and all that.
Right.
You swim first instead of swimming after the bike ride.
So you did.
It's basically a triathlon with a mountain.
No big deal. No big deal. So you did Lake Siskiyou. You swam across Lake Siskiyou, then you hopped on a bike to Bunny Flat, and then you climbed to the peak, and then you reversed it all, right? Am I right?
Right. Yep. So all the way up and then all the way back down, finishing with a swim back across the lake. And I started from, I don't know the name of the parking area. It's on the far end of the lake, and there's just this like green gate that's locked up there in the parking area, and it just made like a really simple start finish point where you had to get up out of the water and run a little bit at the end, and it made it kind of fun.
Yeah, I saw that video on Instagram. I guess it was about a month ago, and I was like, no, this can't be what he's doing. Yeah, I was just so dumbfounded. I'm like, he's not actually going to go from Siskiyou and then climb it, and you're wearing a whole wetsuit, and that it's just crazy.
It's a cool effort. I've had a lot of people intrigued. They're like, are you gonna do this again next year? Can we get a group together and do it? I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's kind of plan on that. Who knows? Maybe it'll become like a little part of the culture there. Whether people are doing it, all out to try to get the fastest time, or they're just doing it casually for fun with each other to see what happens. Yeah, either way, it's like I love coming up with stuff where it gives people a fresh take on like, wait a minute, I think I could do that. I could try that. Even if I broke it down into more than one day, I could go link together this experience. And so, yeah, I definitely love routes like that. That the experience and the aesthetic of it sort of makes it a draw, whether you're trying to break the record or not. And the picnic is definitely one of those ones where anybody with any experience in a triathlon is going to be like, oh, that would be really cool.
Do you like creating your own FKT, or do you like beating someone else's FKT?
There's a bit of both. It's a balance. I mean, I love the creative process. For me, that's one of the big reasons I do these. Even with efforts where I'm doing one that someone else has done, there's still this element of like doing the logistics yourself, seeing if there's any, like, especially on the mountains, oftentimes you're allowed to take like different variations of routes that may be harder or easier, longer or shorter. So there's this creative planning element that's a part of even doing the ones that others have done. But especially when you're the one doing the very first effort, like doing the Shasta Infinity Loop, I had to like scout what is this, circumnavigation going to be like? And there's very little information out there because unlike these other mountains, Shasta doesn't have a circumnavigation trail right now. So it's a lot of linking together old forest roads that may or may not be grown over, volcanic terrain. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, is it going to be more efficient to go lower and find more roads, or is it going to be more efficient to stay higher? In keeping with the aesthetic of the other infinity loops on other mountains, I basically made the rule that you need to stay roughly below the highest trailhead on Mount Shasta, which is the old ski bowl at 7,800. Mm-hmm. And because my thought is they'll probably build the circumnavigation trail. If they do someday, it'll be roughly at that elevation, because that's usually how it works out. Usually the circumnavigation trails will link together the trailhead on its way around the mountain. And so I was like, okay, stay roughly at the height of the trailhead as you go around. And that way it should map well if the trail does get built. And it will be significantly faster. But, I wanted to get out and do it. And there's, you can't sit and wait and hope that somebody's going to build a trail. Right.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it come to prominence, and it seems like a lot of people that are doing it in the Mount Shasta area, like you, live in sort of the Southern Oregon area and are going over to Hood and to all these different places. Is there kind of a small community of people that are not only creating their own FKTs, but also, finding out about someone else's FKT and then going trying to break it?
Yeah, there's a whole niche subculture of, and it kind of crosses over, right? Because it's like this niche of, it could be rock climbers who like going fast and see a route like I did. I put one up on the Cosmic Wall up Mount Hubris in the Castle Crags.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a sprint, like you're running up the hill as fast as you can. You're grinding up the route as fast as you can. You're able to like down climb the backside of it, and then you run back down to the car and your time stops when you get back to the trailhead. So there's routes like that kind of draw like maybe a runner climber type. There's routes that draw a mountaineer, like the ones I've done on Shasta, where if they have mountaineering skills, they might be drawn to it. And then of course it draws people from the ultra running and the trail running world. So it's kind of this weird, interesting crossover of groups that it pulls together, but it is definitely its own niche culture where there's some people that are very stoked about getting out and either trying other people's routes. I mean, I've had people write me thank yous for routes that I put up that they've come and beat me on. It's like, oh, this route was so cool. Thanks for putting it up in Oregon or putting it up in California. I'm like, that's awesome. I mean, there's part of me that's a little sad when a record gets beat, but I'm definitely, it's way more than outweighed by the stoke that it's like, hey, that person did a thing and I had a small contribution to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to be cool. You're almost like Lewis and Clark, you're figuring out this whole, I mean, these records are meant to be broken, right? And you're creating the record so that others can do it in the future. I think that's super cool.
No, I've loved that right from like very early before I, had this crazy idea of chasing 100 FKTs and trying to be the first person to do 100. I kind of loved that it felt like an expression. It feels like an expression, the sort of the next iteration of the old Great Explorer era, where back then, all of this explorative energy, these instincts that push us to go be new places and see new things. It used to be that was just getting there, being the first one to go there, being the first one to summit a mountain, being right. That used to be like the main focus. Well, now that most things have been summited and most places have been explored, I think the new forefront is, well, how many of these can I link together or how fast can I go? It's sort of a next natural expression to still feel that sense of creating something new, exploring something new. We almost are starting to look within at our own limits to have our explorative experience.
Right. You mentioned 100 FKTs, and I literally counted just your 2020 FKTs. There's 46. Do you have 100, or have you had 100 over your life?
I'm at 71 right now.
71. Yeah, because it does seem like, when you look at your list, you're knocking these out with a fervor that it's pretty unbelievable when you're looking at it. So are you doing more? Do you have more planned this summer? Do you have more planned this year and next year? What are your plans coming up?
So yeah, I definitely have plans to do more. Kind of a fun side sub goal I made for myself this year, because I kind of got off and got rolling. And I mean, I lost a little momentum when they shut down everything for COVID. Yeah. And that was difficult to navigate, to make sure I was still being ethical and reasonable and safe. But now it's like, I kind of figure, FKTs are essentially the original virtual race, right? And now a lot of different race directors are doing these virtual races where it's like, okay, we're going to like either live stream it if we're doing a loop type course and we'll see who lasts the longest, or we'll all just submit our data and run on a local course we make ourselves. And so it's kind of interesting they're doing that to motivate people. But in my mind, it's like FKTs were the original version of that. You're racing, anyone throughout history that's like put up an effort on a given route and seeing how it turns out. And so I've been able to, because I have the notebook with all the different options, I've been able to find things that are in areas where the risk is low, the risk I'm going to contract it or carry it is low. And then it's like I'm out in the middle of nowhere most of the time. Right. So it's not like I'm driving into the middle of San Francisco where I'm going to cross 1,000 people, even if I do my best not to. I'm driving out where maybe I'll see one other human being the whole time. So yeah, I've been able to keep pretty good momentum through the year. And I was like, okay, it would be cool for 2020 to average 1 FKT per week for the year. So I forget if there's 52 or 53 weeks this
52,
year, how it all
52,
divides
yeah.
up. But
Well, you're almost there. You're at 46. So, you mentioned that you have a lot of energy, and I asked this to all the sort of the fitness, outdoor crazed athletes that we interview. Are you like a masochist? Do you like what got you into this lifestyle where you just want to push yourself and be in pain and try new things?
I don't think I have a love of the pain. I think it's been sort of a long process because of being the kid who couldn't sit still and would mess up my relationships because of impulsive behavior, whether it was friendships or, making family angry or whatever. I discovered also that movement, and we all discover this at some point in life, getting out and moving our bodies helps us focus. It helps us manage our emotions better. It helps us deal with stress in other parts of life better. That's just, you can look at the science. That's functionally how it works. It literally reinforces the parts of your brain and the buffering of the, cortisol and other chemicals related to stress. It increases your body's capacity for that. And so I fell in love with that heightened level of living at a very young age, and just kept kind of exploring and pushing and being curious and being passionate and playing. And I keep a sense of play in what I do. A lot of people think I must be out there just gritting my teeth and grinding it out. It's no, oftentimes I'm laughing and stoked that I'm out there and curious what's around the next corner. So it's definitely been this process of teaching myself how to keep my mind in an optimal state, right? Because grinding, being angry at yourself, cussing your way through it, that is a skill. That does work in some situations, but you can only do that for so long before you burn that willpower out.
Right.
So you have to have other ways of accessing desire to keep going. And I do that through, the explorative instinct, desire to play, curiosity. These are all things you can access and find I'll call it a happier desire to keep going and go new places and do new things. And so I think that's all been sort of built into it. And I know I love these spaces. I love being in the mountains. I love being out in nature. And so any excuse to do more of that, fits with my worldview, fits with the story I have for myself, what I want to see more of in the world. And then adding in that I love teaching, but I love the process of helping carry others forward. I love coaching. I coach both kids and adults. This is sort of able to easily fit into a narrative of okay, I'm now inspiring others through this too. So even if nobody cared about what I was doing, I would still go do it just because I love it for myself and enjoy it for myself. I like these experiences of feeling myself tested up against nature. I love these experiences, the aesthetics, the beauty of it, but also it gives me permission to speak into people's lives when they, see what I do and go, oh my gosh, I want to do something like that. I go, well, let me show you. I'll happily show you. And so it allows me to feel like I'm adding value to people around me, which I think is one of the most important things of a well-lived human life. So yeah, I guess it's my art in a way.
And it's so funny you talk like that. I mentioned our friend that we had on the podcast, who's a teacher as well. He had the same thing. He wanted to teach and inspire through the outdoors, right? You're combining sort of how you are as a human with your passions, and you're inspiring others to do that. I just love that. Do you train year round for these? Are you constantly running and working out, or are 46 FKTs in 6 months enough to keep you in shape?
It's definitely both. When I'm doing smaller efforts, let's call smaller efforts 30 miles or less. When I'm going to be out there for less than 6 hours, then I'm kind of able to do a decent training load in between efforts, add in speed work, add in tempo work, strength work. But once I get to the season like now, the summer, where I'm going to go do these really big 60-mile efforts and, twice over a mountain, it kind of becomes this process of big effort, and kind of your body's going to get some fitness gains from that, but you're also going to be fatigued. So it's like rest and recover. And then as the body starts to like tail back up, go out on another big effort. And that's kind of how I keep the pace as quick as I do with these big efforts. Is I'm kind of like, I've trained I've been doing this for 15, 16 years now, pushing my body in different things. I got into track as a kid. I ran in college, transitioned to marathons out of college and some cycling, and did some bike racing. Leveraged that into becoming an Ironman athlete. Then I had a big car accident, went out a car window in a rollover accident. And that kind of ended my running for a while because it basically smashed up the side of my body. I broke my shoulder, broke 9 ribs, collapsed a lung, ripped my LCL and ACL apart. And so for a while, to make a long story short, all I could do was like walk up and down hills. And so hills led to mountains, mountains led to bigger mountains. Pretty soon I was going up and down Shasta a bunch and looking for other things to do. And that's how I cultivated this love and the skill set for the mountains that now I can blend into these FKTs. So it's like a lot of it is just a huge, huge background in both fitness and in the skill sets necessary to be in these spaces. And kind of like leaning in on that years of experience that my body is more injury proof than someone who say would have just started running a year ago. Because my tendons and my ligaments have had time over all these years to get thicker and more reinforced. So I definitely lean in on that with these efforts. But also, I'm transitioning now after these 3 big efforts in a row, because I did Shasta, and then a weekend later I did the Hood Infinity Loop, and then a week after that I did the Adams Infinity Loop. So back to back to back. And yeah, my body's tired from that. So I've taken an extra week off and just kind of doing like light running workouts, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of strength work, just kind of like focusing on what am I feeling, what's hurting, and kind of getting the body ready to go. And I'm going to go back into like some mixed sport efforts, bike plus mountain type efforts that are a little bit shorter, between 6 and 8 hours long total. And that'll kind of continue to keep my fitness up, but also kind of let my legs, like the joints and whatnot that are tired of being impacted,
right?
Give them time to kind of catch back up as well.
And you're also a guide with Shasta Mountain Guides?
I am, yeah. Yeah, I love Shasta Mountain Guides. They're a phenomenal company to work for.
What do you do you lead groups up to summit the mountain?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how long have you been doing that?
2 years now. 2 years. Yeah. So it's fairly recent development. I kind of was looking at my passion for climbing mountains and kind of like thought, like, I love teaching, and a part of guiding is teaching well. So I just decided, like, hey, I'll reach out. I'll see, like, I didn't know how it worked in the guiding world. So I just reached out to Shasta Mountain Guides since they were nearby. I was like, hey, this is my resume. This is my skill set. Here's my climbing resume. Would you be interested in someone like me as a guide? And they're like, heck yeah, we're interested. Come to our guide training. Get these, get a wilderness first responder certification and an avalanche certification, and show up to our guide training. And I showed up, and they were like, yep, we like you. And so, yeah, since then I've been guiding for them, and I really like, they have a culture of cultivating their guides versus sort of some other guiding companies sort of have this, oh, you need these certifications, otherwise we won't even talk to you. At SMG, there's definitely sort of this spirit of, what's the word I want? Apprenticeship, which I love. I feel like we're missing chances for apprenticeship in this country, in a way that it feels like it used to be more common, and now it's harder to find. It's just like, you need a degree or you need a certification, otherwise don't talk to us. With SMG, they're like, no, we're going to show you everything you need, and we're going to make sure you're fully capable of guiding on this mountain. And yeah, we want you to get the certification too, but we're going to start working with you before that. And I just love that spirit. Being a teacher, I'm hopelessly into helping people be better. And I feel like their company kind of models that really well.
Do you have any stories on Mount Shasta? Do you have you seen any, whether it be horror stories or maybe triumphs over the last couple of years?
Oh yeah. I luckily I'm really happy. I haven't had to face any horror stories personally while out there with guides, or really even just on personal trips up the mountain. I haven't had any like horror stories happen in front of me, but definitely some really cool stories of triumph. I mean, Shasta is such a big goal for so many people, and it's just amazing to watch that and help that process of struggle and doubt, and then the success and like the degree, the feeling of success. You can see them and remember the feeling for yourself that they experience when they do make the summit, and then making all the little parts along the way more enjoyable for them than they would have been without you is really fun to kind of transform that whole experience on the mountain to be something positive for them. A really cool story that happened recently is there was a father-daughter team, and they like had tried Shasta 2 or 3 times. The dad has stage 4 cancer.
Oh.
And his father had climbed Mount Shasta, and it had been one of his goals. And so he's like, no, I'm going to do this. And so he had to try like 2 or 3 times. And finally with SMG, just recently, they got him to the summit with his daughter. They were both up there. And he got to live this kind of like deep connection because of, his father. And I think if I remember right, maybe there was a grandfather as well, that kind of this history of summiting Shasta that he wanted to keep alive and experience with his daughter. And that was just like overwhelmingly phenomenal to see that story play out.
I know it's on both of our bucket lists to climb. I don't have like any ligaments in my knee right now, so it's hard for me to pull it off. But growing up, our father used to do it every year, and I think he did it 14 straight years. And
wow,
we used to watch him train every year, and sometimes he'd come back and he'd say I didn't make it, and that was okay for him, trying. But I think it's definitely, Mount Shasta is just so close to us and everything that we do that it's certainly a bucket list. So for anybody who wants to, say me with ligaments in my knee, anybody that wants to go climb Mount Shasta, what's the starting point? You just start trying to get in shape? Do you reach out to a guide service? What's the best approach to go about it?
You can look out for people who are either coaches who have like knowledge and a skill base in coaching people for being in, elevation, for climbing, for that type of stuff. Maybe it's a personal trainer, maybe it's a coach, or you can oftentimes reach out to guiding services, and they will have training plans that they're like, oh yeah, you want to come climb our mountain? Here's a training plan. So that can be a great direction for people to get some advice as well. I mean, some mountain guiding services even like have a partnership with someone who does training specific to that mountain. I'm not aware that Shasta Mountain Guides has anyone in a formal sense that way, but there are guiding services that they have their own training book. They have a person that will coach you, and then you come in and you climb with their guides on the mountain too.
So, are you just are you doing a lot of Stairmaster? Are you running on the treadmill a lot? Like, what's like a good workout?
So for me, I love being in the outdoors. So I'll do my stuff out in the elements that, I want to be in. Plus then, it's like, I think of Mount Shasta, there's such a convenient road to drive up that Everett Memorial Highway where you're not tearing your car up on a rough road just to go like get some elevation experience. You can drive up to 7,800 feet and get out and walk or hike on the trails. But things you can do specifically, whether you're able to get up to, say, Mount Shasta, or you just have a hill nearby, or a set of steps, is kind of train with the weight you're going to be carrying. So load a backpack up with 40 pounds of weight, 50 pounds of weight, and do some sets and reps of stair steps. Do some sets and reps of walking up your local hill. If you use water, the cool thing you can do, like if you do have a bad knee, is on the uphill, you have it loaded up with water, and then you get to the summit, you pour it all out and walk back down without weight, so that you're not, flaring that knee up by carrying weight and walking downhill.
Right.
Although I would say you should do some downhill stuff as well, since that is kind of one of the hard parts of the day. Oftentimes people are so stoked and jazzed for the summit, and we have to coach them on this. Like, don't let your guard down once you make it to the summit. That's the halfway point. The true summit is back down in the parking lot, right? That's when we can celebrate. And so you definitely have to keep your mind engaged. So preparing for that as well. And I think I would say that's a huge part of preparation, is preparing mentally for the discomfort, and like sort of realizing you're not going to climb a mountain to be comfortable. We live in a very comfort-driven culture, comfort-driven society. We work so that we can have greater comfort. And you don't go climb a mountain to be comfortable. You go climb a mountain for the full experience that's better than being comfortable, right? When everything's said and done. But you have to endure those low points for the high points to really like show their true vivid color. And I think some people don't come fully prepared for, going through the valley of the shadow of death, so to speak.
Yeah.
But practical things, getting in some longer hikes, some longer walks. Two ways I go about it. I think about foot time. How much time will I be out moving? And so even if I go walk on easy terrain, or I stand throughout the workday for the same amount of foot time, that's one way to make your body more resilient and ready to be out moving on the mountain for 8+, 9+, 10+ hours on summit day. So foot time is one way to track it. You can go out on hikes that are the same distance, even if it's an easy hike. So it's like round trip, Mount Shasta is 10.6 miles. So leading up to it, you should have a couple of times on the weekend where you go out for a hike that's 10.6 miles or longer, so that you're sure, and that creates confidence, right? Then I can cover the horizontal distance. So it gives you these little mental like confidence boosts for when you're there on the mountain. You're like, I know I can cover this distance. And then doing little bouts where you're focused on the vertical gain. Like, okay, I'm going to do, how fast can I climb 1,000 feet? You're going to climb 7,000 feet total on Mount Shasta from the car to the summit. And that's going to be broken up, obviously, if you do multiple day climbs. But kind of think through, like, okay, this is roughly how fast I can climb 1,000 feet on this little local hill. And this is how fast I can do it comfortably. All right, that means it should take me this long, roughly, to climb the mountain to the top. And you can kind of start learning and building these little bits of confidence about what you're doing as you approach the big effort.
Yeah, I like that. I know my dad, he used to, he would train for 6 weeks. At the 2nd week mark, he'd climb Lassen Peak. At the 4th week mark, he'd climb Shasta Bali. And then at the 6th week mark, he's up to the 14,000 feet at Mount Shasta. So I like that idea. You're also dealing with the elevation and the lack of oxygen at these different places. While it's not as extreme as Mount Shasta, it's certainly helpful to sort of build up to that point.
Absolutely.
So this was awesome, man. Thank you. You're like a huge inspiration. I really appreciate the time. So I have to ask you, do you have any FKTs coming up? Do you keep it a secret because you don't want other people to steal it? Like, what's coming up in the near future?
Coming up in the near future, actually, I just got cleared for solo climbing on Rainier again for this year. So I'm going to head up there, and I want to chase the Sea to Summit duathlon record. So you bike from Puget Sound up to the trailhead, and then you summit the mountain. The timer starts when your back tire leaves the ocean water, and the timer stops when you hit the summit. So I'm super excited for that one.
Wow.
Yes, very excited for that one because Rainier is also a beautiful mountain and an amazing experience. So I'll head up there. I'll do that, and then I think it'll be time to head south for some fun adventures in either Yosemite or down near Mount Whitney.
Nice. Nice. And you have an awesome Instagram. What's your Instagram handle so people can follow your adventures?
It's my first and last name, Jason Hardrath. Hardrath spelled Hardrath.
Okay, we'll make sure they know. We'll put it in the notes of this podcast. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. You are awesome. We really appreciate what you do, and we'll talk to you again soon.
It has been an absolute pleasure.
All right, thanks, Jason. All right, that was our interview with Jason Hardrath. Just a cool, inspirational dude. Like he just loves teaching people and inspiring people and pushing himself. Really fun to talk to him.
Absolutely, the dude's a badass.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to have him back on. You know, I'm sure he's gonna have like 1 million more FKTs by like next year. And we're gonna, we'll post sort of we're gonna post a big story about him on the website and sort of list all of his FKTs for everyone, because it is long. Like we certainly can't talk about all of them just in the time we had interviewing him. But really cool to meet him, really cool to talk to him. So that does it. That does it for this episode of the Talking NorCal podcast. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Who did I miss? We're everywhere. Also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'll post different videos of this episode. Also our YouTube page. We're going to post this whole video on YouTube. We're looking sharp today, so I really recommend it. And hopefully we'll have another one of these. We're going to try to get in the studio again this week. So we're going to keep hitting your eardrums hard after our little break that we took. So until next time, thanks for listening. And remember, stay active.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and Darren knows how to do kick it down in Santa Cruz. Or NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the East Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little mental when we visit Sacramento. Yeah, we're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we protect nature's bounty when we visit Humboldt County. Yeah, we're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and me, I'm hella cool, 'cause I'm a Vince Sebastopol. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and you know that we got